Germany doesn't like owing money much. For about 10 years after Angela Merkel made the debt brake part of Germany's rules in 2009, Germany was known for always keeping their budgets in balance. Even when they could borrow at really low interest rates, German leaders said a big no-no to borrowing, calling the Schwarzer Null, or Black Zero. They were so serious about not borrowing that they even put up a statue of the Black Zero in Hesse's state finance ministry when Merkel's finance minister left in 2017. But it looks like Germany might be changing its mind about the debt brake. Recently, Germany's highest court said the government's plan for a €60 billion climate fund went against the debt brake and couldn't happen. This caused a disagreement among the government's groups, with the Careful with Money FDP not agreeing with their partners about how much money to spend. Because of this fight, they've put a vote on the budget on hold, making people worry that the government might stop working. In this video, we want to explain why Germany's debt brake is important, why it's causing problems for the government, and what might happen next. Germany changing its mind about the debt brake is a big deal, and understanding what it means is really important for knowing what's going on with their politics and money. In Germany, they have this thing called the debt brake, which is like a set of rules in their constitution that says the government can't borrow too much money. It says that the federal government and the 16 states in Germany can't have a budget deficit of more than 0.35% of how much money the whole country makes in a year. That's called gross domestic product, or GDP. This rule is super strict, and it stops them from going into debt, except in emergencies like during the pandemic or when energy prices shot up because of what happened in Ukraine. Let's compare Germany to some other countries to understand this rule better. In 2022, France and the UK had deficits around 5%, and the US is expected to have a deficit of 7% soon. None of these countries have kept their deficits as low as Germany's 0.35% since the early 2000s. France hasn't had a budget deficit this low for ages, not even close. Angela Merkel made this rule in 2009 because of the Eurozone crisis. Even though Germany's debt was over 81% of how much money they make in a year because they spent a lot and also gave €500 billion to banks, way more than the 60% limit set in the 1992 Maastricht Treaty, people from different political parties agreed with this rule. They thought it showed that Germany's economy had recovered from spending too much after reunification. Some experts worried that it was too strict, but at the start it seemed to work really well. During Angela Merkel's time as the leader in Germany, they were really good at managing their money. They were the only big European country that kept their budgets balanced most of the time. By 2019, Germany's debt compared to how much money they made in a year dropped to 60%. A lot of people in Germany thought they did so well economically in the 2010s because they were careful with their budgets. They talked a lot about this debt brake thing, and they really liked the idea of not owing money, which they called the Schwarzer Null. But then something changed because of the pandemic. Merkel's government said it was okay to spend about €150 billion more to help the German economy during the lockdowns. But when things got better and Olaf Scholz became the new leader after Merkel in late 2021, they found out something surprising. Around €60 billion of that extra money hadn't been used. Scholz said in the agreement with other politicians that they should use this leftover money for a new fund for addressing climate change. He thought it was still kind of connected to the pandemic and can help the German economy deal with money problems. However, the main party against this idea, the Christian Democrats, didn't agree with it. So, in early 2022, they took the matter to the German court, saying that this extra money wasn't really because of the pandemic and so broke the debt rule. Finally, after almost 2 years of thinking about it, the court made a decision, and it was in favor of the Christian Democrats. Court ruled that using this leftover money went against the rules of the debt brake. Let's get one thing clear though. The court didn't say that all borrowing for climate things is wrong. They said before that it might be okay to borrow a bit more for addressing the climate issue. The rest of the money in this climate fund seems to follow the rules. But this decision has made things really complicated for planning the budget soon. Now the German government said they won't vote on the budget for 2024 for an unknown time. This makes things really uncertain. Right now, it looks like the government wants to change the debt rule for 2023, saying it's okay for what they spent earlier on climate issues. But even if they do this, it's not clear how they'll make the budget for next year. The Social Democratic Party's co-leader thinks they should get rid of the debt rule in 2024. They also wrote a paper saying that this rule isn't enough for the problems we might face later, which might mean they're thinking about changing their ideas. But not everyone agrees with this plan, especially the Free Democratic Party, FDP, who are also in charge with them. They felt really embarrassed when they tried to change the debt rule before but had to go back on it. The person in charge of money for the FDP, Christian Lindner, said they need to start balancing the budgets again soon. Because of this, people aren't so happy with the FDP anymore, and their support has gone down by 5%. Some members of the FDP are upset and started a petition asking their leaders to ask everyone in the party what they think about leaving the group they're in with the other parties. Just changing the debt rule back and saying it's okay for 2024 might cause a lot of arguing and might take a long time to solve in the courts. They're not very clear why they want to change this rule now, because Germany doesn't seem to be in a big emergency. Also, the person leading the country now, Schulz, might have trouble getting enough people to agree to get rid of this rule completely because it needs a special majority in the Bundestag, and that's really hard to get. The problem shows a bigger issue for Germany. The strict rules about the debt make it really hard for future leaders to manage things, especially if the country's economy slows down a lot, which seems to be happening now. This problem comes from a mix of things happening around the world, like the cost of Russian gas going up and more countries being protective about their businesses. It's strange because following the debt rule made Germany spend less on important things like its basic infrastructure, which is crucial for how well the whole country works. For a long time now, Germany hasn't spent as much of its money on things like roads and trains compared to other countries in Europe. This has made it tough for Germany to be as productive as it could be. There's a big issue here because even though Germany managed the debt rule when things were going well, dealing with problems in the next few years looks really tough and more complicated. The important thing to understand is that while the debt rule worked kind of okay when things were good, dealing with what's coming up seems like a really hard challenge now. That's it for today. And now we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Do subscribe to the channel if you like our content. We will catch you in the next one. Bye.